welcome to another episode of Alan Rice. We're working on Lucky Gold. This is Tyler trying to weasel in to talk with Heather, or set her up anyway. Okay, so yeah, there we go. And Mr. Chikan, the man did just that. Having a brief conversation with a one older man. He couldn't make out what they whispered, but the fellow departed not long afterward. Mr. Chikan held open the space long enough for Tyler to slip in. Now came the tricky part. There were rules here. Some subtle, and some otherwise. The chips no touching other chips, obviously, but also when you could bet, and how. Oh, he'd studied the game on the way over, studied this game and others on the way over, but he knew from the start that he would seem to be a novice at this. That drew a bit of unwanted attention from the other magus. The woman pausing to sweep up the dice for another throw. He'll call it a roll. I want him to seem like a novice, so we're going to use some things that are. But she didn't say anything. And since he wasn't holding on to, he wasn't using nickel or any other metal, she shouldn't be able to tell he was like her. Unless his giving held a resonance. This is giving held a resonance. Detect. Like a bubble in water. A bubble. Perhaps like a bubble in water. He couldn't feel that from her. Indeed, Indeed, she felt full. She felt somewhat full. She felt full. And why was she pushing herself at this game? Didn't she know the penalty? Maybe not. Maybe this would be his chance. He put 10,000 on the bet opposite her. And lost. And lost to a 7. To a tumbling of 7. But then she didn't get those. Then she didn't get those chips. The house did. Interesting. The very nature of the game limited her vulnerability. No doubt why she chose it. If this was poker, he could have fed her until she burst. But here, they were not adversaries. Merely passengers on the same flight. Okay. How do we do this? Perhaps he's realized this too early. I mean, having him realize it immediately. The toss of the dice. She got an 11. Which was apparently a win on the first toss. Another roll of the dice. First time out. He was having problems following. He was having problems following the game. And didn't dare risk a perceptual twist to slow things down. Not with her right there. He put another 10,000 for her to win, and won. So were others. So are others now. All riding the same wave of luck. But it was... And he felt it. A tug from the depths. a flare of heat. And a flare. Sun-forged heat. The dice tumbled, and he followed them. Not sure what he was seeing, but only knowing that it was touched it's touched by magic, by the roller. Snake eyes. A 2. Piling up. A 2. 2 little dots on the dice. Everyone groaned. It was a loss. Apparently. And he felt a wave of sorrow and of outward sorrow and inward relief as the strain that the woman had been under released. She was no longer filling up, but instead had returned to equilibrium. Well, that's interesting. Table's gone cold. Miss Flowers announced. And I'm going to go eat. Mr. Shakan was there to help shepherd her away from the others. Her chips following behind. The woman's following behind. Though she kept some in hand and passed them out. Her generosity subtly tipping the scales toward emptiness. Interesting. Interesting. Very interesting. And informative. He hadn't ever encountered a practitioner like her. Not only could he feel what she was doing, he could almost understand. All right, this is interesting. Understand what she was doing, but he could feel it. their paradigms. I probably need a better one. We're close. He might be able to learn from her. Before he had to dispose of her for the same reason. But there could be no pursuit of her. Not now. It would be, while his nickel affinity allowed him to do many things, being bulletproof wasn't one of them. He was mortal, so instead he played a while longer, got a feel for the game, tried out some nickel-related twists, all failed to produce results, and then then withdrew, having lost as much as he'd gained. Later then. When he left the table and the press of humanity behind, he reached out, senses again. Her resonance back to him, pulsing above. Okay. High above. Whatever she was doing, then he released his grip on the other world and forced himself to pay attention to this one. With a smile, he waved Mr. Shakan back over. Alright, and that's going to be a chapter break. Now, from here on out, we don't have we no longer have our flashbacks. Alright. Heather let pour the tea. The little china pot was a fine one. Inscribed with all sorts of lettering and imagery. Almost too much so. Almost too much so. It was a wealthy she couldn't see anyone using it day to day. It belonged in a museum, which meant it was probably a copy. Which meant it was probably a copy. Which meant it was probably a copy. Again, everything in these apartments was a copy of something. From a TV show or a movie or comic. Things that things that never existed, but were brought to life by fiat. Thank you, Heather said to Ainsley. As the tea ceased to flow. The smell of it was revitalizing. Taking away the crush of the craps tape. The impulse to join an ordinary table, an ordinary to join in had been too strong for her to ignore. In for a roll of the dice. And a more ordinary. Too strong for her to ignore. So she hadn't. She was up a fair amount. But at the end there had come a sensation that was wholly unpleasant. You're welcome. You're welcome. Anything else? Will there be anything else? Let's be formal. Lunch, I suppose. For two? Will Mr. What is his name? I don't know the characters well enough to know their names. This is sad, but it happens with writers. It was Daniel. Daniel Shaku. Unlikely. He's he's running an errand. Have you taken him into service? You've taken him. Inquired. I'm paying him. That's what you mean. Does it matter? It might. Lee admitted. Tell me. Heather asked. And invited her to sit beside. I'm not used to service. All my life, I've after myself. Sometimes my parents. Then your parents, are they sick? There was a cancer. Okay, hello. There was a cancer. My father. One of his he had cancer. Almost didn't catch it in time. She said, Mom, having trouble dealing with it. So I pitched in. Made sure Dad got his treatments. Okay, so yeah, made sure Dad. You know how it is. And settled in. My mother had an issue. Surgery, chemotherapy, and even radiation. Did she? She did. Yes, well, it was good to have her as long as I did. On his medication. till this surgery. You know how it is. You know how it is, do you? It was good to have her first onset. She was a good, stout woman. Caring, considerate, and a love. And I hope that's the curtain between us, isn't it? I pay her salary, so we can't be close. And it'll be the same with Daniel. Money does strange things. So, if the gentleman takes your eye, too direct, money does strange things to relations. I expect it has done the same to yours already. It has. Heather replied, thinking back to every email and phone call she'd gotten from distant cousins and friends, all asking if she could lend them some money, something. The voices were what struck a chord in her. The wheedling in tone they took, trying to prize just a few thousand for me to get back on my feet. She then inclined to say yes to you, but that had only made things worse. Now she had a new phone. Now she had a new phone, a new email, and a new life. Okay. Was that or be pestered to death? I should see about your lunch. Said, rising. I wish we could be friends. Heather noted. Heather said, said, hold herself back from turgid thoughts, from but I'll understand if that's very direct. It's very direct. I suppose it is. But I'm not British. Very true. But you'll do. Now then, what would you like to eat? The lobster mac and cheese. The lobster mac and cheese is still on our short list. Indeed it was. What I thought. Okay, I have no idea where I'm going with this, so we'll just keep going. You've got to finish a draft before you have finished a draft, and you can't change what you don't have. Yep, lots of pablum there, but it's true. All right, well, I hope you've enjoyed this session of Alan Writes. We're writing, and as long as we're writing, we're going somewhere. Eventually, Tyler will work his way in. They'll meet or have a conflict in a final settling out, and then we'll see what happens at the denouement. All right. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this. So stay safe and take care out there. All right. Thanks.